This is just an informal and unofficial look at the water program on this module from Jasmine and Olive Trees. It's one of the programs that ships with the module, which is either called water or called traffic, depending on which one you order. This is a traffic module, but with the supplied snap-on faceplate. First, I've got this patch to kind of just sort of show you what's going on. Water is a multi-tap sequence, 8-step sequence by default. You can use reset to make a shorter sequence, and there are 9 CV values. These are the 3 taps, and there's some random features that are cool, and I've got this module set up just so that I can use the button to manually trigger the random. That's what this trigger input is. Right now these are sent to a VCA, 3 separate VCAs with 3 different oscillators at different pitches, and they're panned. They're just so that you can hear a single CV value as it propagates, or rather as the taps move through it. And you're hearing the clock in the background. This is all happening off screen, and the reset has a different sound on it. So that's just the Bassimilus that I have set up with Pamel's new workout to give us that audio cue. So these are all set to 0 at the moment, fully counterclockwise. I'm in unipolar mode. There's a bipolar mode as well. And that's why you're not hearing anything, is because the VCAs are all shut. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna choose one of these, and I'm going to raise its volume. So we got 9 CV values on an 8-step sequence, 3 taps, and you can see how these taps are stepping through the sequence and hitting that one value that's not 0. And those are 3 different oscillators you're hearing in an alternating manner. So if I bring up another one, and another one, I can make this one quiet. Or I could bring up this one, and you get a sort of a rhythmic pattern that comes out of it. Now, since there are 9 CV values, then that means that, and there are only 8 steps, that means that not all of these taps will get all of the values that are possible. Each one of them is going to be missing one of them. There's a whole pattern of arrows and lines on this faceplate that will attempt to show you what's going on. Like by default, tap A starts here and moves along, cascading through the sequence, except that it's never going to get to here because 8 steps is the maximum length on this module, at least with the firmware I've got. I am manually resetting it, but if I wasn't, it would still stop at 8. I believe that's true. Let's verify it. Yeah, so it's automatically resetting at 8 steps, but this way we know exactly when it's resetting, so that's why I've got that there. So anyway, you can try to mentally parse this, but it's pretty hard, especially once you get more than one of these things going on. This is not a module that really encourages premeditation, unlike the traffic mode, which is all about precise control. This is kind of like, let's find something cool and let it go and let it do its thing. It's almost like almost like 3 Turing machines, in the sense that it's a repeating pattern. And you don't bring in noise to change the values like you do in a Turing machine to flip bits. You would just change the knobs, but there is this random feature. So let's take a look at that random feature now. I'm going to go back to just having a single value up. And there are 3 different random modes: step, phase, and all. As I understand it, I'll read from the manual here. Step mode interchanges potentiometer values in a single step. So I believe that what happens when we trigger this, like this, let's just bring up one more. See how this guy is getting triggered twice easily within the same 8-step. It's actually getting triggered 3 times. There are only 2 values that are up. This one is full up. This one's partly up. We're getting 2 full CVs. It's hitting this one twice, and then it's hitting this one once. And this one's only getting hit with with this value. This one's getting both. So, as I understand it, whenever you trigger random, what it's essentially doing is, I believe it is shuffling the values in the matrix, and it does it in a random manner. So you can actually wind up with some of these values missing, and you can wind up with doubles of others. I believe that's what's happening there, but the documentation's pretty spare at the moment. Sometimes I find, particularly in this mode, when I hit the random trigger, it doesn't always do anything that is all that noticeable. I think it may be one of the more subtle random modes on this. Now, to get back to the original default, you toggle this. Maybe I have to do it twice. Yeah, okay. I think we're back to the default setting, that what you see on the, ostensibly see on the faceplate. Let's go to phase random mode. So I believe that what happens here, and the manual says, phase mode keeps the same values but randomizes the outputs in time, resulting in different shift times between the outputs. I think this is like moving the taps. So if the taps are by default separated by 1, 2, 3 steps, except for this guy who's only going to be 2 because it's an 8-step sequence, I think what it's going to do is it's going to move these taps around. So it's a bit like changing positions in a round. You can't see where they've moved, obviously, so it's just you trigger random and you hope you get what you like. But I find I often do like what I get, so. Okay, and then all mode, as it says in the manual, all mode randomizes all sequence values for all 3 outputs with a single trigger input. So I think it's probably doing both of these at the same time. It's just shuffling everything. So let's go check that out. Now this isn't a particularly interesting patch. I set it up specifically just to try to give you some kind of idea of what it's doing. Let's look at some other patches. This is a simple melodic demo of water. We have 3 CV outputs going to pitch via a quantizer to 3 droning oscillators. And I've set up this module here just to use the button to send a random trigger into the random trigger input. And we're currently in the all random mode. And all of these pots are turned down to 0. So all of the oscillators are getting the same pitch. So they're all just droning on top of each other. But as you can see, the sequence is already running. So to kind of get things started, I'm just going to turn up one of the CV values. And now I'm going to start playing this a little bit. So in this patch, we're using water sort of in the manner that you would use traffic. These three CVs are all connected to the Bassimilus iteratus alter. And let's see here, what are we doing? We're doing spread, morph, and switching modes. And I have this set up just so that I can trigger the random with a button here. And everybody's set to 0. The clock is just triggering the Bassimilus for the purposes of this demo. So we'll start with just changing some values. So in a sense, we're using water a little bit like sort of 3 Turing machines or something along those lines to modulate the Bassimilus. And there's no reason you can't use water for kind of a cyclical modulation of anything in your rack, except that we've got these various random features that we can play with. obviously we don't need to be triggering the stimulus every single clock, but you could use whatever rhythm you wanted, but just the cyclical modulation is expressing a rhythmic pattern. And we get a new one whenever we randomize it. Or at least most times.